Hey everyone, welcome to our live stream. Mark here at Whole Latte Love with Nick. Nick, today we're taking a look at 3 levels of Gaggia machine. Kind of a sneak peek of their new dual boiler PID over here on the end. Really
That's right, yeah.
Machine a lot. We're going to go for a supreme entry level, no skill required kind of machine.
I like that, supreme entry level.
Supreme entry level. So you can be a barista without having barista skills. We'll show you how to do that coming up. We're going to brew a bunch of drinks. Milk, you're going to do some frothing of milk for us.
Sure,
right, Nick? Okay.
That's right.
We got the Gaggia Classic E24. This is a step up. It has a new brass boiler. We'll show you some test results I've done. I've done videos, honestly, on all these machines where we go really in depth. You want to get a look inside, really get to know them. You can do that. The E24, all new brass boiler.
Yes.
Spent now 9-bar brew pressure for a really long time, if that's a thing.
Yeah, that started with what, the Evo Pro, and now we're on to the E24, so that's just kind of the new standard.
Yes.
On the Gaggia Classic.
In our sneak peek over here at the Gaggia GT.
That's right, Classic GT.
Classic GT, that is a dual boiler machine with all kinds of fun stuff. It's gonna when it comes out, when it becomes available, it's got a really amazing price for a dual boiler. All these machines, we'll talk in specifics in a minute, but like this guy right here, you can turn this thing on and be, making yourself a latte in under like a minute almost.
I gave a demo just this morning with this machine and did exactly that. So.
Same thing over here on the Classic, 5.5 minutes about for a full heat up and ready to go. This is a single boiler machine, so no brewing and steaming at the same time. Same thing over here on the Evolution. When you get up to the GT dual boiler, you can brew and steam at the same time. It's always there, always on demand, and no messing around. What else should we say? Oh, we do the live streams pretty much every Friday at 3 o'clock.
Right.
Do
every
different
Friday
things. We do invite your participation. We do have your questions that pop
right down there. If you
there.
see us looking down below, we got a second screen for you.
What else? We got a whole library. Again, we got videos on all these machines, really in depth. And we have a special cameo here. With
we have a few special cameos, but just to kind of get you guys a little bit of sneak preview of what's coming at you. If you were at the SCA show at all over this last weekend, you may have seen the Gaggia Classic GT in person at the Varia Brewing booth, and we have a little recap video that we're putting together for you so we can show you some of the cool stuff that we got to see. Yeah. So keep your eyes peeled on the channel for that. And then, Mark, so what have we got here?
We've got the Beamed Up. Now we have these coffees, literally these were created, I've been here almost 15 years now working with this stuff. And these existed in some form before I was even here.
Bozopolis definitely predates both of us.
Yeah.
Beamed Up, you may remember our Beamed Up, right? Which was the dark roast. This is kind of a reimagined, more accessible version, I think, than that one.
Now these are all 100% specialty grade. They are bean blends.
Grade bean blends, that's right.
But all 100% specialty grade beans in there. We've really worked to develop some really, coffee's changed a bit over 15 years. Right?
I would say so, absolutely. I wrote a piece on these coffees if you're curious, and then they should be available for purchase, I think, just this weekend. Okay. So,
all right.
Very exciting. You've got, I think, maybe a little video that you're going to be doing on these coming up soon.
Today we will be brewing with our Crema Wave, one of our most popular bean blends. This was our classic our modern American take on the classic Italian style bean blend. This is also all specialty grade, and boy, this stuff was roasted like 3 days ago. So we'll talk when we get over to the GT. We'll talk about some things we can do on that machine. They're going to help that out because generally that's almost too fresh. Really, you really want a coffee to off gas.
You've got a lot of that CO2 left in there. Yeah, exactly. You need some off gassing first, but
that's what we're using today because we like it. It's maybe a little bright when it's right out of the gate, like fresh off the roast like that. That's okay. We can deal with that sometimes. And also we'll be grinding on the Gaggia MDF.
Yes.
Tell us about this one, Nick.
Yeah, so the MDF is a great grinder. So it's a 55 millimeter flat steel burr grinder with stepless adjustment and then programmable timing for single and double shots. And then you can also press both buttons there. That's going to switch you just into straight manual mode. Love using that for when I'm getting dialed in. But aluminum housing that's brushed. It looks quite nice next to the regular Classic, but I feel like it really matches very well with the Classic GT. Nice low profile, very quiet, smooth adjustment. Just a great overall grinder. And then You can get fairly coarse too. I know if you check Gaggia's website, they even will say that you could use it for other kinds of preparation. Definitely mocha pots for sure, and then maybe some filter brewing if you were interested in that kind of thing too.
All right, so so you gave a demo on this one. This one is off right now.
Yeah.
So this one automatically shuts off after 30 minutes. So I'm just going to press the power button so that can start heating up while we prep the coffee. Now, we're going to brew in a pressurized basket on this. So so that makes making espresso super, super easy. Now, if you want to go, to a next level with specialty grade coffees, generally you'd use a non-pressurized traditional.
You'd want to go with something like the Gaggia Classic. The Espresso Evolution, just one thing that I want to point out, one thing that all these machines have in common besides being Gaggia machines, is they are all made in Italy. Which is really cool. Now, these machines, they actually, I think you've shown this in one of your own reviews, Mark, but
and I left a puck in
you've
there.
left me a present in this one, so let me just get that out of there.
And we'll talk about what a pressurized basket can and can't do for you. Number one is you don't have to. We're going to grind fresh for the brew we do on here today. But you can use like pre-ground coffee like I have right here. You just want to make sure that it says somewhere on the can espresso. If you put like a filtered grind size in here, you're not going to get good results at all. So your coffee should be ground for espresso. You can buy it in the store, online. You can probably go to your local shop.
Yeah, have them grind for you too. Exactly.
Grind it for you too. Because grind size isn't quite as critical in a pressurized basket, but you do want espresso grind size.
Now, one thing I do want to point out too that I think is actually pretty cool is if you look at the design, and Will, maybe you can get us closer, of the Espresso Evolution portafilter and the new portafilter from the Classic GT, those handles are actually fairly close. You've got the angle with the Gaggia G on them. Very nice. There you go. Thanks, Will. So, just a little bit of DNA shared between the products. I always like to point out those little things. They're kind of like little Easter eggs. Maybe for me. We've got Chris B in the chat. The CremoWave is my current go-to, open to other suggestions. So, Chris, we love CremoWave. Yeah. We drink a lot of it here in the studio.
It's, I think, one of our, top 2, 3 most popular?
Definitely within the top 3 for sure. Just to give you a little bit, and here, I'll tell you what, Will. Let me, if you want to come back to the new blends here, I can give Chris just a little bit of guidance on that one. So the beaned up, right? That is a reimagining of a dark roast. So we wanted to go for the same kinds of notes though. So this is going to be more your traditional kind of like campfire in a cup. You've got marshmallow, you've got graham cracker, a little bit of red berry there, lots of sweetness from a honey processed coffee that's used in there that gives it that good body without necessarily having to be as dark roasted. So that one's going to be a more traditional coffee. Now the Bazopoulos, this is not your daddy's Bazopoulos, basically, let me just say, right? So like original Bazopoulos, dark roast, smoky, spicy espresso blend. CremoWave has kind of taken its place as sort of our flagship espresso blend, so we got a little more experimental. The Bazopoulos is going to be much more bright and juicy, very creamy, lots of orange, citrus, and vanilla. So if you're looking for something kind of totally different, that would be my recommendation. Also, Bazopoulos is delicious with milk. So if you're looking to shake things up from CremoWave, definitely give this one a try.
Okay. All right, so let's get into it. So like I said, I am going to grind fresh today. You can use, in this basket that we have right here, you can use the pre-ground.
You can use the pre-ground, yeah.
Or a pod. So because this is a little bigger, it's not going to fit in my grinder. So I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to grind.
Use a dosing cup.
I'm going to use a dosing cup.
It's a very nice dosing cup you've got there from Varia.
So I'm going to grind into this, then transfer to the portafilter. Also on here, this is not a heated group head.
That's correct too. Yeah. And you've got obviously plastic here in the construction on the portafilter. That's very common in these kind of very supreme entry level, as you might say, espresso machines here. But they're designed much more like super autos, where some of that same tech is used for that incredibly rapid heating, right?
Yep.
Exactly. So.
All right. So I'm gonna grind over here. We'll transfer over here. I'm gonna use a 15-gram dose in the Evolution here. We're gonna do 17 over here when we get to Classic, and I think 19 over on the GT.
Perfect.
So let me grind that up. Now, if you were going to use the pre-ground in the can here like this, 2 scoops for the double shot basket.
That's correct, exactly. So it'll come with a single and a double, and the scoops are the amount of coffee that you generally want to use. So.
So I'm going to do a little transfer here. I'm going to do it. Oh, you know what we forgot next?
The 54, right?
And yes, and also a knockbox.
You know, I think we can.
We'll make do here.
Yeah.
So, and if you don't, if you're doing 2 scoops or you're grinding fresh or something in this sort of a, let me get it over here so you can see it. I will just, fill it to the rim here. I'm going to swipe off just a little bit. Luckily, I have a garbage can beneath me here. So we're just filling like that. And let me do this up here so you can see what we're going to do.
Yep.
So it does come with that scoop, which has a little plastic tamper on the end. Now, when you're using a pressurized basket like we are in this machine, it also does come with a non-pressurized basket.
That's correct, yes.
Yeah, a double shot. So it does have the little tamper on the end here. So I am just going to compress this. When you're using a pressurized basket, tamping is not super critical.
Not super critical, but obviously you're just helping keep things tidy in there, preventing the coffee when it expands from kind of coming in contact with your shower screen. But yeah, to your point, Mark, not as vital as it is with a traditional portafilter. So I see a question. Hi, does Gaggia sell the classic 15 bar in the EU and 9 bar in the United States? So I can confirm all of the classics available in America are 9 bar.
Yep.
I'm not sure if that trend has picked up in Europe or not, but if you're buying in the United States or in Canada, yes, you're definitely going to be getting a 9 bar classic.
All right, so there's our puck prep, as it were, for this one, which again isn't super critical when using the pressurized basket. Nick, can you grab me one of the rattlewares over there?
Yeah, of course.
Because I want you to see what this looks like when it comes out. So this machine, very simple, very easy to operate.
Also, too, just turn the knob, pump runs.
Yep.
You can preheat this cup for us.
Thanks, Nick.
There you go.
So I'm not going to put a scale on this one. Most people who would be using this machine probably are not going to use a scale. We do suggest that, if you're really working with special grade coffees, weigh your coffee, weigh your ground coffee in and your espresso out. We're not going to do that. So to get this going, now you can program this button, so you can do that, which I'm going to do right now. So it's just press and hold.
Yes.
And it does an automatic pre-infusion. If you watch my video on this machine, you can see what that looks like.
And we could hear that too, just that temporary buzz, right? And there we go. And I see James, you're joining us in the chat. James, good to have you. Glad to see you here with us.
Turn this around a little bit.
And see, there we go. I mean, that's looking great already. You are getting a nice head of crema on there. Now, one thing to note is we are using freshly ground coffee.
Yeah.
If you've got a can of pre-ground that you're using and you've let it sit in the cupboard for a while, you may not get results quite as pretty as we are. So coffee freshness always matters regardless of whether you're using pre-ground or freshly ground coffee.
And in my experience, I'm going to say that's where we should be.
Yes, and now because you pressed and held that button though,
that's programmed.
That's programmed now, and so it's going to dispense that amount again next time, and it's as easy as that.
And we'll combine this. Why don't we do a cappuccino? So we're going to froth the milk on this in just a second. One thing I just want to talk about, and I don't know if you notice right now, if you take a look down here, we're getting a little drip happening.
Yes.
No 3-way solenoid valve in that. If you're researching machines, the rest of the other 2 Gaggias here do have the 3-way solenoid. And thanks. So when you take this portafilter out, your puck is going to be a little soupy.
You'll get a little bit more water on the top there.
So it's not going to knock out clean. So there's a little more work to do knocking this puck out, which I'm going to do right now.
And you just want to make sure, strike the portafilter against the bar too. If you're a little too vigorous, sometimes you can knock that basket out. Now, one thing I do want to mention, though, which is actually pretty neat, and so it's something that you can do on this machine and on others without the 3-way solenoid valve, though, is because there's nothing that drains down, you actually can fully remove the bottom tray. So if you're brewing into a taller cup, let's say, you can gain about an additional inch of clearance and then use that, obviously, if you want to make coffee to go, or if you're making just a longer shot, that sort of thing. So just something to keep in mind. Just a neat little, maybe an Easter egg, we'll call it there. And then what do we got? Just a little pitcher here?
Yeah, a little frothing pitcher. So we're going to froth some milk on here.
Okay.
And we'll make a cappuccino out of this. So what we'll do is why don't we, if we grab a clear cup, right?
Yeah, you know what? I think we might have one of our nice Quintos in here.
Yes. So we'll froth the milk on there. Now, Nick, I guess you can froth if you'd like.
Oh, I'd love to. I saw your clear pitcher was in there too from your video you just did with Lily.
Yes.
On what do you think? Well, actually, we're brewing first, obviously, steaming second.
Yes.
We'll see what that does for my latte art pour, though, huh?
And that's what we suggest. You know, maybe a good time to steam second is for latte art.
Yes, exactly.
So,
and let's see. James heading to lunch. Thank you. We're glad you could join us while you did.
Thanks, James.
So on this machine, we're obviously just going to see the steaming indicator is going to flash for us. Just like any kind of machine, you're always going to want to purge any of the initial condensation. Now that boiler is still heating up. It's a thermal block, meaning that it's heating so it can just produce that steam on demand. And with this style of wand, this is what's called a Panarello wand. There's a small air intake right here, right about where the rubber elbow meets that sleeve. We've got a solid light now, and I'm just going to submerge the wand in the milk there, and that's it. And you know, it's actually fairly quiet, which I appreciate.
Over this way
Yeah, trying to get out of the way there.
There we go. So this wand will do all the work for you.
Yes, and so basically, if I want to stop adding air, I have to raise this pitcher and essentially cover the air intake hole with the milk. And then what that means is we're just going to continue to heat the milk without actually adding any more foam.
So and for heating, we want to go till, we're looking for about 140-ish degrees.
About 140-ish, yeah.
60 C
you'll get used to it as you froth milk, obviously. And so I find right until it's just about too hot to touch.
Yep, that's about 140 when it starts to get a little uncomfortable. And then this does an auto purge. So if you put the wand back over.
Here, let's put it over this.
Okay.
So it's not spraying into
and
our...
And if you just press the button and then open the valve, it does everything for you from there. So you just let it go, leave it right open, and it'll kind of stop once the boiler, because you need to cool down boilers on single boiler machines.
And there's a lot of foam in here. Now, you can actually remove the wand entirely, and you could froth just with this steel here. You always want to take this off too. You can double check. You can see there's a little bit of milk that's on there. So when you're all finished, just give it a good rinse in the sink, right? But there's a lot of foam here. I know I've managed to froth with this without it. So yeah, let's go ahead.
Try a latte or a cappuccino?
I'll try a latte, Mark.
Okay.
I feel like we are whole latte love.
Yes.
Whole cappuccino love might have been the other multiverse that we're not in. So.
So we're going to do a latte. So we're going to transfer the espresso over to this cup and then pour the milk. If we were doing a cappuccino, we could do it the other way around.
That's right. Yes.
If you wanted to, you don't have to.
This is just working this milk a bit, getting those bigger bubbles out. It's looking a little better texture-wise. Richard, hello. Thanks for doing this. Our pleasure. Whether you've got a Gaggia or maybe you're thinking about one, we hope that there's some good info in here for you. And then actually, Will, we're gonna see it through to the end. So I'll have you switch us to the overhead there. There we go. Not too much crema, unfortunately.
I guess we talk too much, huh?
I feel like that's a problem that I do have.
I mean, for as long as it's sat and for a totally automated froth, that's not too shabby.
Yeah, I mean, working it, you were able to, like I said, break up some of the foam. So it's not super foamy anymore, which is actually pretty nice. Now, again, you can take this sleeve completely off, and then you could froth using just the metal. That's something to just keep in mind if you really wanted. I've managed to pour much better with this machine, but you just want to keep that nice and clean. And then because it has the same fitting as Gaggia's other super autos, you actually can upgrade the Espresso Evolution with the auto frothing Cappuccinatore as well. So that's really for somebody who just wants something very simple. And then thank you for your videos. If we want an Americano, what kind of machine should we look for?
My favorite. I'm much more the Americano drinker. So for an Americano, you can certainly do it over here if you want. Nice. You don't push the steam button, just open the valve like you showed right at the top. Or
yes,
heat it up,
exactly.
Heat it up the cup.
And we'll show that on the Classic too, but I do love on machines like this one, because there's a pump. It's a lot like this with the Solus too, the Barista Perfetta Plus. It's just when you open this valve and you're not in steam mode, the pump kicks on automatically. And it just starts dispensing hot water on demand, which is really, really nice. But
And
yeah.
and I have a tip for that, right? So if you were gonna, I like to put, if I'm gonna do an Americano on a machine like this,
Yes.
I like to put the water in the cup first and then do the espresso over
yes.
the top. So then the water can cool down a little bit, because as you'd see in some of my other videos, you really want to drink, to really appreciate coffee's flavor, you want to be 140 or below.
Yes, exactly. Well, that's more of a long black too, right?
Yeah,
so
and a long black.
They make them down under. So
Yes,
let's see.
yes.
I recently bought a beautiful red Gaggia Classic E24 from you guys. Replaces my 15-year-old Classic. That's great to hear, Richard. Yeah, I think, and I may be wrong, but I think I may have actually talked to Richard on the phone. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yes. So if that was you who I helped the other day, Richard, I'm glad you could join us for the stream today, because we'll go on to the Classic next. But any closing thoughts on the Espresso Evolution, Mark? I think overall it's a really cute, really compact little machine, but it actually, you know, what's worth noting is the extraction temperatures too are regulated by a PID. So the boiler, the thermal block that is maintaining a consistent temperature during extraction, which I think is really cool. And all made in Italy too. I think it's a really cool design.
Yeah, I don't think there's any other machine of this variety that's actually made in Italy at this price point. It's super easy to use. You know, a quick little story if I can.
Of course.
And I know you were showing somebody this morning. You know, my daughter, she's going to be in a wedding. She wanted to get, you know, she's a maid of honor, wanted to get her best friend wanted an espresso machine. She lives in an apartment down in New York City. And she wanted something, you know, that was really quick and easy, simple to use. She actually was a barista here in town.
No kidding.
When she was in high school, but she's since gone. That was a long time ago. So she wanted something quick and easy, and she loves this. She loves it so much. Now her dad wants one. Very easy to use machine, very quick. But let's go on to the Classic, right? So over on the Classic.
I'll just rinse this real quick to give us a...
So over here on the Classic, what's different? This is like, you know, all metal. There's a little plastic on the tray here, but other than that, all metal. And as we heard from Richard, he had a Classic that he was running for 15 years. So you take care of these machines, and they can go for decades.
That's right.
You know, if you look at our videos on these machines, you can get inside there if you want. We have lots of DIY stuff. If, you know, a decade down the road, you needed to do something in there. Super easy. Parts are super available. But the difference, bigger portafilter.
Well, and Mark, I mean, too, like, if you're ever going to get a Classic, like, now's the time. I feel like this is the most different the Classic has been in a long time.
And why? You've got the reason why right here.
We've got it right here. So this is the new brass boiler that they put in the Gaggia Classic. And if you're, you know, getting familiar with this, it's actually also the same boiler that's in the brew boiler for the Classic GT. So very exciting there. A few changes, obviously, on how the GT regulates temperature. But yeah, Mark, I mean, take it away. You did a really thorough review of the Classic.
Well, first we got Will running the show back here. Thanks, Will. First, so let's take a look. You know, if you do want to know more about this, maybe get into some slightly higher end brewing on the Classic. I've got a graphic here that you'll see in the video where I did a lot of testing of this machine, on the E24 of the temperature. So there you go. So this is, so we put a special device on there. We measure the temperature over time once per second. As you can see, I'm going to show you a technique on this machine to get an average 200-degree brew temperature, which is perfect for a medium roast coffee. That's where you want to start. As you can see, we were at, you know, like 200.5, and down at the end there, out near 30 seconds, we're down to, you know, about 198. So we were, you know, right where we wanted to be. And then there's other techniques that you can use to, like, vary that temperature up or down. Like if you're doing a lighter roast, you might want to make it just a little higher. You want to do a darker roast, you might want to do it a little bit lower. But it's really easy to do. We also have the three-way solenoid valve in here, standard size and weight, commercial style portafilter. So this gets warm. It's warm.
That's all. Right now. It's a polished stainless now
polished
too.
Stainless.
Yeah. On the new E24, and that was the same with the Evo Pro brass group.
Brass group. Well. So let me grind our coffee here. Let's see.
So while you do that too, Mark, just to kind of point out what we're looking at, if you want to go across the machine here, Will. So we've got 3 switches, obviously. We've got power on the left, brew in the center, and then steam here on the right. And then you have corresponding LEDs. So the power switch is obviously, is the machine on or not? And then we have this brew thermostat. And so, Mark, that brew thermostat, that's important for your technique. So tell us a little bit about how you like to use that.
So I'll show it to you in just a minute. So what we do, so I've got the little Pyrex over here. We're just going to run the brew switch. And look, you want to flush the old coffee off of your group anyways,
of course.
right? So we're just going to run the brew switch for about 5 to 7 seconds. And then turn it off. We'll run it into here. And again, I'll show you this. And then the light will go out and come back on. I want to tamp my coffee before we actually do it. So this is the tamper, by the way.
From the Gaggia Classic GT, the new wooden one.
GT.
It's beautiful. That's an actual made in Italy wood handle tamper.
Really nice.
Very nice.
So I'm going to tamp my coffee here. I like a little polish.
I like a polish.
I also like the barista blow.
I can approve of polish, no tapping.
No tapping.
No tapping. Polishing is fine.
All right. So, as you can see right now, so I just saw the light come back on.
Is that a problem, Mark? So, like, if my machine does that at home, what does that mean?
It means you can go brew right now, but I do want to show you the technique that's going to get you that really nice 200-degree temperature. So I'm just going to let it heat just for a minute. Like, I was just grinding my coffee. Okay, so come up. I'm just going to run this for like 5-ish, 6 seconds. I'm just kind of going over. It's not critical. And now that light should go out somewhere in the next 15-ish seconds or so. A lot of times what I would do, and then it'll start heating back up when the light comes back on. We'll wait for that for a hot second.
I was going to say maybe you just needed a slightly longer flush.
Flush. So we'll give it a little bit more. Like
there we go. So exactly.
So now when that light comes back on, I'm going to be right at a perfect temperature. And the nice thing with the brass boiler is it gets there quickly and it holds it longer than the older
versus
aluminum
the old
boiler.
aluminum. That's right.
So we'll get that set up.
And I have another clear one, so if you want to watch me, brew into this.
Yeah.
Oh, I see you've got the matching red Varia scale too.
So I am going to weigh it on this one.
We'll take the pad out.
Yeah.
And then here's what I'll help you out. Move the scale for just a moment, and there we go. And then if you really want some extra clearance, invest in a bottomless portafilter and probably a Varia Accu Mini scale. That's going to get you a lot of extra clearance. We just did a great video with John on bottomless portafilters, talking about exactly this, giving yourself a little more clearance.
So we used about 17 grams in there is what I had the grinder set to dispense.
Right.
So we're going to let that go. It is running just a hair quick in my estimation here, but we're going to stop that at about 32, so we get 34.
I didn't do you any favors too. I took your mat off so your cup was drifting there.
But there you go. Still a really nice looking
Very
shot.
nice.
And now what we're going to do, we want to steam some milk, so we're just going to hit the steam switch. And nice thing on the Classic, I just went over this, we were taking a look at a bunch of different single boiler machines, 5 different ones.
Yep.
Classic is the fastest to be ready to steam when you do that. You do not have to wait for this light to come back on. We found that it's about 25 seconds, and we're going to want to give it a
And Mark,
little
it's not even just that you do not have to, but you probably you shouldn't, right?
Yeah, you really don't want to, because if that light comes on, the heating element in the boiler is going to turn off.
So I'm about ready to start now, would you say?
Yeah, I would go for it.
And so when that heating element is still on, that means we're going to be continuing to get more and more pressure even as we're frothing.
So this newer version with a brass boiler, actually it froths a little bit faster than the old version does. In my testing at standard SCA, 5 ounces of milk to 140 Fahrenheit, 60 C, it was about 24 seconds.
It's looking good.
I'll help you out.
Thank you. Yeah, there we go. There's my towel. We'll see if I can redeem myself here, and then we'll go over cooling off the boiler. So we've got my kind of Christmas tree maybe looking pour over here. But are we good, Will? There we go. A more defined Christmas tree.
You are more defined. Yes, we do have some definition. I do. We had a lot more crema still available on that shot to give us some nice definition on that compared to the other one. So if you're all about how it looks, and sometimes how something looks affects the perception of flavor.
Yes, but you can get much better microfoam on the Gaggia Classic, no questions asked. So
all right, so let's cool this boiler down. So the procedure is we left the steam on. Typically, I would have turned that right off. Is just to
press
push
both buttons
and give it a little bit of open so you're not blowing stuff all over the place. and then let that run until you get a solid stream of water out of there.
Because what that's doing too is, because the steam switch has been pressed, the solenoid valve in the group is closed.
I'll show you that.
And that means no water will flow from the group. So we're not making a mess on our workspace here, on our drip tray, and then we're still running the pump. So you're being a little more aggressive even than I was. We're getting there though. And it's just pulling in more water. And then once you have a solid stream, you're more or less cooled back down, but then you'll have the light indicating when it's time to start brewing again. So,
and yeah, we left that steam. It's taken a little longer, so we did leave the steam switch on for a little bit longer. Typically,
well, I'm also trying not to give it too much gas because I don't want to be in the splash zone here. And there we go.
You go.
We're looking good.
I'll cut you off. There's a solid stream. So that's the cool down on a single boiler. It works very similarly on other machines that do have a switch like that.
Yeah, so
or
pretty
a
much
switch.
any kind of single boiler traditional machine, so like the Rancilio Silvia, the Bizarra Hobby, Profitec Go, ECM Casa 5, you know, any of them really will have that same procedure. Some have dedicated switches for the pump and some don't.
Some don't. So I do want to show you a difference in here. So if you notice a little duct here,
Yes.
that's the output. That removes excess pressure and water from the coffee. So we get a much drier puck. No drippies from this one.
That's right. So that's connected to the solenoid valve.
So I'm going to knock this guy out for you here. So that knocks out
Much easier.
Really nice and clean. There you go. I'm going to play with Will. Knocks out nice and clean. Of course, you know, you do want to wipe down your portafilter after brewing. I had some coffee from the last one in there. I like wearing my coffee, right?
So we have a question from Chris again. So Chris, I want to say, I'm fairly certain the Classics reservoir is around, I want to say it's like 2.8 liters. Don't quote me on that. Quote the website.
Yeah.
But it is pretty substantial, to be honest with you. Actually, it holds a lot more water than you might think because it goes all the way back.
All the way down here.
Down here, yeah. And so it's fairly big, and it's a pretty wide space. A lot of the other, reservoirs that we have either come back up and curve, and you lose some space there. But it's over 2 liters. I'm fairly certain there.
And let's just talk about water too for a second, because over here on the Evolution, it's yank the tank from the side.
Yank the tank, I like that. Pulls right. You don't even have to remove the whole thing.
No, you can just kind of let it hang there and refill.
Yes. On the Classic, you can actually fill, and it's preferable that you fill from the top because you could fill the water reservoir from the front, but then there are 2 lines that drop down into this reservoir. So there's one line that draws water into the boiler, obviously, that's connected to the pump, and then the other, which is the return line. So your return water gets sent back to the tank here, and then your decompression duct is actually right there in the way of the reservoir.
Remove.
It does remove, but it's more steps if you want to fill it from the front. So my suggestion would always be just to fill it from the top.
And we're all about easier workflows, right?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
Do they come with built-in filters like my Solus has? So that's a good question, and the answer to that question is going to be no. So what I would recommend is grab yourself a BWT Aqualizer pitcher. That's going to solve, I'd say, the majority of water cases, and that's going to exchange calcium in your water for magnesium using an ion exchange.
And also dechlorinate. We do have one over here if we want to.
Oh my goodness! You know what? You're absolutely right. So something like this right here. So it may look like your standard Brita pitcher or something like that, but the reason why we go for a BWT is that all our water filters that we carry from BWT soften water and optimize it for espresso brewing. So not only are they removing minerals that would cause scale buildup in your machine, but then they're introducing magnesium as a flavor carrier to enhance the flavor of your coffee.
In place of the calcium. Which
exactly.
Calcium is a fine flavor carrier, but it ends up with scale in your machine if your water's hard.
That's right.
And it also, again, it dechlorinates the water as well.
It does,
as a particle filter. And very few of the Brita filters or tap-mounted filters that you see, very few of those. In fact, I'm really not aware of any that do an ion exchange.
Correct, exactly.
There are other softeners that use traditional sodium-type softening, But what a lot of taste testing has found is that magnesium is a much better carrier of flavor than salt.
Well, of course. And so it's just think of it like there is active carbon in here, like you said, Mark. It gets rid of chlorine. It's doing everything that those filters are doing, and then it's just optimizing your water for your machine.
Yeah,
so.
and not to give too much of a BWT plug, but Best of Panama competition last year, they chose BWT, and they're tasting some of the finest coffees grown in the world, some of the Panama geishas, that kind of thing. They chose BWT for their water supplier. And
that's right.
Coffee is mostly water, so the water you use really does make a difference.
And I would say stay tuned for our SCA recap because we actually do have some cool new stuff coming from BWT. At least I think it's very cool. So hopefully you'll tune in to take a look at that too.
I want to know. I don't even know yet.
No, not yet. Well, it'll be a surprise to you too.
It will. All right, so that's the classic. If you have any questions, 72 fluid ounces. Thank you,
72
Zach,
fluid ounces.
What is that in liters?
Yeah, I was going to say metric conversion there. I don't know.
What's a quart?
Because 1 liter is about, I want to say, it's close to like 33 ounces, I think.
I don't know. Do one of you guys know? You guys are watching.
Answer in the comments if you're watching.
Answer in the comments.
That's right.
How many liters?
Will, we're in a race against Will. We can see he's looking it up right now too, but we'll see who gets that. So, any questions about the Gaggia Classic though? So this is, to me, probably the best value entry-level espresso machine that exists. I think Wirecutter magazine actually also just came out with a review of several machines and picked the Classic as kind of the best overall pick for a home espresso machine.
2.13. Zach is back in there.
2.13. Okay, it was above 2 liters.
Yeah.
My initial estimate was a little high.
A little high.
But
you brought it back.
We're bringing it back.
Someplace over.
But it's a substantial size tank for such a compact machine. Like there's no two ways about it.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, very nice. All right, so that's classic. Yeah, like you said, a Best Buy. It's one I've always recommended as the best place to get into espresso at home.
Yes.
If you're going to be, if you really want it super quick, super easy, and you just want to get a latte in the morning, and you're not like over the top. This one is going to make one that's going to be on par with what you're going to get at most.
I'd say
without issue.
Picking out some good coffee, some good beans, having someone grind them for you, just taking some care. Yeah, you could 100% make a drink with that. That's on par with, probably 80% of the shops that you'd go into.
Yeah. Oh, upgrades for the Classic? Well, I got one right here.
Yeah. So
bottomless
portafilter, that's right.
Yeah. Filter baskets?
Yeah, so it's really worth mentioning, and I think we're going to see how this is valuable. This is a 58 millimeter commercial style portafilter, meaning that it's compatible with any kind of 58 millimeter basket, 58 millimeter tampers, 58 millimeter levelers, 58 millimeter dosing funnels. That's not to say that those things don't exist in other sizes, but 58 being the most common means that ultimately you're going to have the most choice when it comes to accessorizing. And what's really important is those can level up with you to your next machine.
Yeah.
And if you're out there watching right now and you own a Gaggia Classic, it's really important to remember that the portafilters that work for the standard Gaggia Classics all work for the Classic GT. So if you have a Gaggia Classic and you're thinking about that upgrade, well, in most cases, if you move to a E61 prosumer, you'll be able to use everything but the portafilter. Yeah. With the Classic GT, you can even use your Classic portafilters. So if you went out and got yourself a really nice bottomless one, guess what? That's moving up to the GT with you as well.
Going back a little bit, we used to have on the old set, if you ever seen any of our old videos, we had a Gaggia Deco commercial 3-group machine.
That's right.
These portafilters, or the Deco's portafilters, would fit into these machines. Which I thought was really pretty cool. All right, so I guess we shall go GT. Other upgrades for the Classic?
Shower holding plates too. That is actually something that is not compatible with the new GT because of
if you have an older one, right?
Yeah, a neat upgrade in how the holding plate works on this machine now.
And shower screens.
Shower screens, yes.
They
are compatible. It's the new holding plate in the GT. When you remove it, you can actually drain the brew boiler. So if you're transporting the machine or you're going to be away for a long time. But yeah, Mark, I'd say you could take it away with this guy. You've been using it probably more than anyone has.
Again, not quite available yet. We'll be here really soon. But this is a dual boiler. So for years, I've been recommending the Classic here. And I know there's a huge mod community out there that'll PID this thing or put different stuff on it to make getting those super precise temperatures maybe a little bit easier. I've always said if you want a PID machine, buy it already there, unless that's your thing.
If it's a hobby, if it's something
hobby,
you
fine.
enjoy,
Yeah.
go for it. But if you're looking just to enjoy the machine, get a machine with a PID for sure.
So the GT over here, again, an amazing price on this. And Will, I think, so a lot of control on this machine. It's got the time of day on off.
I love that,
Yeah.
yes, and very simple to program.
It's got independent dispensing of water here, out there. It's got really nice. In fact, I'm just gonna do it. Let's just do it, right? So I'm gonna let the steam blower heat up for a minute. I just want to show you what this.
So what do you mean when you say let it heat up, Mark? Tell me what you're talking about.
Well, because I just dumped some water off of there, so it reintroduced a little bit of water. So it's.
But now this is blinking, and this was blinking before.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
So this means it's heating.
Right,
Yes.
but so there's a dedicated just hot water mode on this machine, right?
Yeah, that's what I use. Okay, so stop blinking. Let me just catch, because you should always purge a wand right before you do it.
I'm getting
a little water.
I'm getting anxious. I'm close to the danger zone here.
So I'm just going to let this thing fly. So what I did in the video where it's maybe hard to see the steam there.
Yeah, here
This will produce steam continuously, even when the boiler refills. So if you could use this thing as a humidifier in your house. I don't suggest that. But Will, we do have a graphic on the GT for the milk frothing performance on this. So let's take a look at that. So where we said it was 24 seconds to do the standard milk test over on the Classic, it averaged about 20 seconds here. And you can hear that machine refilling. But I also take a look at the percent of water added. We had one outlier at the end. Maybe I didn't purge it quite enough when I did that. But everything's well under
10%.
Under 10%. And that's kind of my goal. I mean, I know there's prosumer level, dual boiler machines that are putting out in the 11 to 12% of water added into standard test. But we're still steaming away.
Yeah.
It's added some water to the boiler while
pressure
it's
has
doing
not
it.
diminished at all.
Pressure hasn't dropped at all. So if you need to steam a gallon of milk, you could do it almost
A gallon of milk.
I don't know why.
I just need a gallon pitcher now, a giant one. You want me to close that for you?
So you can hear it's refilling again and again. It just did that continuously. I was kind of amazed when I did that.
And it's actually more impressive than you might think with this refilling. So, I think a lot of people just imagine in their minds what a dual boiler Classic might actually look like. But one of the things that's really cool about the Classic GT is the fact that it actually has not just two boilers, but two pumps, right? So you have a dedicated pump just for your extraction. And so in many cases, any machine that's a dual boiler or a heat exchanger, it's going to have a fill level probe inside that boiler with steam so that if the water level ever drops low enough, it can kick the pump on automatically to refill it. Now, if you're in the middle, let's say, of brewing and steaming at the same time on a heat exchanger or a dual boiler, in most cases what's going to happen is your pump's going to run to try to refill the boiler even while you're in the middle of extraction. On the Classic GT, you have a completely separate pump, so you'll never interfere with your extraction just for that pump to run to refill that steam boiler, which is not something I've seen on pretty much any other dual boiler I've run across.
And I kind of started out talking about what people do to the Classic here to mod it.
Yeah.
And what the community wanted. I mean, there's tens of thousands of these machines out there. And I want a pressure gauge. I want PID. I want that. I want a easily adjustable brew pressure. That steam boiler was running at 275 degrees.
275.
But it is adjustable in 5 degree C increments on down from there.
That's right. Yeah. So there are 4 total settings for it, and they adjust in 5 degrees Celsius increments. We'll have to ask Will for some help with that one again. But we've found, honestly, if you're thinking about that versus other PIDs, for the most part, we just leave it at max.
Yeah.
The pressure is really good. There's great control because it's a single hole steam tip. And if you had any questions about the overall just endurance of the output, it lasts a really long time.
Now look, there's different, some people, there's other machines that I work with that have a much larger hole in a steam tip, but they are going to lose pressure after a little while because they're letting so much out at once. They've really done a nice job of balancing the stock steam tip here.
Yeah, well, I mean, because that's just to name names, that's a little bit like the Eureka Costanza. Incredible steam power, But yeah, it definitely needs to recharge if you go full blast for a little while.
And you know what? Unless you've been steaming milk forever, too much can be too much, right?
Yes.
Because on that Costanza, I think we did a little measurement where this one does it, and we were looking at 20 seconds. The Costanza could get that test done in 8 seconds.
Yes.
But the number of people who could actually effectively steam a quality milk in 8 seconds is very, very small.
Yeah, unless you're using a huge pitcher, maybe, right?
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the things that people wanted in the Gaggia Classic, and that Gaggia has given us.
Well, yeah, got this right here, actually.
We'll talk about that in a hot second. So we do have the brew pressure gauge right here, so you can take a look at that. People get really uptight about brew pressure, and I know, like, we had the question earlier about the Classic. It's 9 bar.
It is 9 bar.
OPV,
that's right.
in U.S. and Canada for sure. Older ones maybe not so much.
Yep.
It's not as big of a deal as some people might think, and I'm not going to get into why. But if you are like really uptight about pressure, you've got a pressure gauge here, and it's really easy to adjust. And we'll show that in just a minute. So we have a pressure gauge. We have the dedicated hot water dispensing here.
That's right.
With a button here. You like that? We have 3 modes of pre-infusion on this one.
Yes. Technically 4, I guess.
Yeah. So you can select those, and do we got a shot at the top here?
There we go.
Yeah, okay. So if I wanted pre-infusion, I've got a switch right here, and I'm just going to turn it on. And then in the menus here, and I really like this. So I kind of compare this to like the Rancilio Silvia Pro X, which is a dual boiler machine from Rancilio. Although I find this one, the control's much easier to use.
Sure.
On the Silvia Pro X, it's like a 2-button deal, and you go through kind of these coded menus. You don't really know what they mean.
Well, you want to know something that I really love about this machine, just real quick too, is it's one of the few dual boilers where you can actually just adjust the temperature without having to go into any menus at all. And I really appreciate that for brew temperature, that is.
So if we're looking at the top, and I want 200, which is what we're going to use, like I said, at 200, and we're going to do one of them specialty, Panama geishas, right? And we want maybe 202, 203. Boom, we'll get 202, 203. The light will flash here until it's ready. It'll let us know when it's ready.
Exactly.
So we have a read of what our presets are here, and it's hit the 203.
We're already at temperature too, exactly.
So that's really nice. It's a quick transition to a different temperature. I'm just going to bring that back down to 200 for when we get going. So let's take a look at some of the. We'll just take a look at some of the pre-infusion modes.
Yep, it's the first option that you see there.
So we hit the check mark, and we have light, medium, and dark. So it's 2, 4, and 6 seconds, but it's the longer for the.
It's longer for light. It's shorter for dark.
Yes.
So, and what Mark's saying there too is essentially you have between 2 and 6 seconds of an active low flow pre-infusion.
That's important.
Followed by that same amount of time as a soaking period, right? Like a pause.
Yep. That's really cool, and it is low flow, right? Because there are a lot of machines that if you have some pre-infusion set, it's just going to bang the pump with everything it's got, and it's
full blast. Exactly.
So to have a lower flow hit your coffee, disturb it less, let it soak in, and you have that passive time after it.
And let's do a little demo of actually how that works real quick too.
Yeah.
So you have your pre-infusion switch, and when it's illuminated like this, that means that the automated pre-infusion is turned on. So I'm going to turn it off just by pressing that switch. So now if I press the brew button, you're going to hear just what the pump sounds like without pre-infusion turned on. And it's basically just straight on to full pressure, and you can hear the pump running at just a normal extraction. Now, when we go over to pre-infusion mode now.
Nick, you put it on light, I think?
I have it on light. Well, I just need to give people enough time to see it. You hear the pump sounds very different, very gentle little flow of water there. And then we have the automatic pause before it kicks on to full power.
That's letting it, it's that passive time, and then it goes and does
there
this
you
thing.
go. And now we can just stop that.
I like that a lot. This does, of course, have a 3-way solenoid valve, so you're going to get the dry pucks, just like you did over on the Gaggia Classic.
That's right.
But let's, hand me that portafilter. Let's make some coffee, huh?
Yeah, and so for all of you watching too, There is also a fully manual pre-infusion mode that you can use also. So Will, if you want to bring us back up to the top for a minute. This one's really cool. This is accomplished by simply pressing and holding this button instead. And now you'll see on the top of the screen, we now have a counter for the amount of active time that we've run the pump. I release that. Now I have a counter for our soak time. Solenoid valve is open, so you may see a little bit of water dripping. And then when I want to start brewing, I press that brew switch, and now you have a third timer that's going to be for your active extraction time. So for those of you espresso heads who are like all about the numbers and how long you've pre-infused and how long you've waited,
You got all the numbers.
that's the best way to actually do that, in my opinion.
All right, I'm going to grind some coffee here.
So Abbas said, hi, Whole Latte Love. If you want to offer, which one do you suggest, Gaggia Classic GT or Profitec Move? You know, that is an interesting question. I would say this. I think that if you were really looking to get the most out of your coffee, especially with that low flow pre-infusion, the Classic GT would be the one for me, honestly. So as Mark mentioned too, we also have a external OPV to let us additionally affect the extraction by changing that pressure that we're getting. Now, for me though, the Profitec Move, if it was, I would say, kind of a look and feel and aesthetics consideration, that's definitely a machine that's a little bit more luxurious. It is coming with those walnut touch points, and you do get the included modular portafilter now, which is essentially a bottomless and a spouted portafilter, which is really, really cool. From a temperature stability standpoint, I'd say they're both quite good. I would give the steam to the Classic GT probably, just if you want to maintain that pressure for sure. But it's close. I do think that, you know, the Move is much more stylish, like with those brew lights and everything.
Yeah, it's got a really cool look.
But this machine's also built like a tank. Like it reminds me a bit of the old Expo bars. So. But
the Move uses a very similar sort of boiler setup with a boiler over the group. You know,
exactly,
it's a main group kind of setup. It's ready to go quick.
Yeah.
I think it comes down maybe to some aesthetics.
Some aesthetics for sure. Yes.
You know, so what I did. So this does come with the blind filter basket.
It does.
So I just want to show you. You know, we talked about brew pressure, and if you really want to get into that, so let's adjust the brew pressure. So.
Yep. So
just put in the blind, right?
Okay, and
I'm just going to start brewing.
This is just a flathead.
Oh, and it's going to do the pre-infusion. Let it get.
There we go. But Will, if you can get a little tighter on the gauge for us. There we go.
So it's going to do our little soak time. So you know.
We have to get up to our 9 bar, and then I'm going to reduce.
There you go. You're down to 8-ish there.
Yeah, I could keep going.
Yeah.
I mean, but it works just like an OPV would, you know? You can adjust, there we go, down to 6 bar. You're looking for a real gentle extraction there, but, you know, again, that's accessible right from the exterior, very straightforward. Just using a screwdriver to adjust that. We'll get back up to 9, and then we'll call it. But the machine does come with a backflush disc because you, in fact, should be backflushing your machine.
Yeah. All right, let me get this shot tamped, and we'll see how long. You know, we ran just a little bit of water out of there.
Oh, you know what? No, I'll go for the hat trick here, and we'll see if I can redeem myself on this last latte here.
Oh, and we're going to brew and steam at the same time.
Of course.
Too, of course. Oh, maybe, can I have another one of those Kinto cups while you're over there, Nick?
Yeah, my pleasure. So let me grab you one here.
Thank you, sir.
There you go. Plenty of room on this workspace, but it's also worth mentioning, too, that the drip tray is height adjustable as well. Yeah. So you can put that up. There's an accordion-style decompression tube on this machine, so you can extend it. I don't necessarily recommend doing it while it's hot like I'm about to, but, you know, this is live television, so we're going to do what we have to.
Get yourself a little burn for the masses, huh?
There we go. There we go.
All right, so I'm going to let you feel it. It wasn't that bad. Well, it does have the rubber grip. Did you use the rubber grip?
Probably.
Okay. So I'm going to let you get your milk ready. I'll start the extraction here. And let's see. I'm going to, because, you know, Nick gave a quick demo of the pre-infusion, I am going to give this a little pre-infusion.
Perfect.
As well. I'm going to do it manually. Because I want to go about 4 seconds, so I'll let you clear
quick
out.
purge there.
But I'll start, and you start, and away we go.
Really great
So
roll
I'm
on
gonna
this
give it
though.
about 5 seconds.
Comparing this to the classic where I was just frothing, I do need to be a bit more mindful to
I'm gonna let it sit
keep
for
my
5, and then we'll brew away.
roll under control here.
I can tell that shot's really quick, but we're gonna live with it. We did use the same grind on all the machines, and like I say, grind is not set and forget, and just because your grind, just because I'm using a certain grind size on a grinder, that doesn't mean you should.
I think we say what? Consume often for frequent educational
There
experiences.
you go, yes. So that's really quick making a drink. You know, we were looking at the single boilers in a video I put up yesterday, right? Yeah. It's usually about 2.5 minutes to make a milk drink, and I think we did that in well under a minute.
Oh yeah, in terms of the overall steam
look at that.
performance.
That's
Well,
the
there we
prettiest
go. Yeah, I mean, it's a
think?
little blobby on the base, but
Yeah.
yeah, pretty cool.
You got
And
some nice
Abbas,
definition
you're
out
very
there.
welcome. But yeah, anyone who's out there too, we're still happy to take any questions that you might have. I know the GT has been probably on a lot of your minds lately.
Oh, and I'm going to ask Will to bring up the varied interval average brew temperature for the GT. So this is some testing I did. You can see it all in the very extensive video we did on this machine. So what we did here, so like I dialed in a coffee. 5 minutes later, I went and pulled a shot. I had the machine set for 200, a brew temperature of 200. So these are the average brew temperatures during a 30-second extraction. Repeated a bunch of them, and you can see 7.5 minutes later, you don't need to flush this machine like you would a heat exchange boiler or a lot of single boiler machines. No flush necessary to get it where you want it to be. You just set the temperature you want. But you can see we were very consistent at 7.5 minutes later, 3.5 minutes, 4 minutes, 20 seconds, 4:30, 4:38. You know, as we got a little quicker and got like 6 deep into there, you know, the temperatures did start to come down a little bit.
And that makes sense. It is a very compact boiler too.
Yeah. And but let's compare that like to even with a short interval. So I've got the short interval tests that we did here. And as you can see, you can do 6 in a row in 2.5 minutes before you start really losing it. And then, you know, depending on, you know, it came right back, but it started to get a little stressed out. But if you're popping out, you know, a drink every 2.5 minutes, it's not all that easy to do that.
No,
on any
of course
machine.
not.
I don't care what you're using, unless you're multi-group in a cafe.
Well,
or
I mean, you're
something.
grinding. You got to get your cups. You got to pour. You know, ostensibly. I mean, all that's going to add time in between your shots that are going to give the boiler more than enough time to recover.
Yeah. So really liking the GT. But what I really like here is just the range of machines. You know, if you just want it quick. You know, I told this story about, you know, my daughter's going to be got one from her friend for a wedding gift kind of thing.
Now Dad wants one. You were saying.
Now her father wants one. But really easy. I mean, you can have a drink out in this. You know, you get up in the morning, turn the machine on, make your latte, and be done in a few minutes. If you're, you know, a little more serious and you want to get into some better frothing and that kind of thing, and maybe a little bit tighter temperature. This is PID, but it's going to be a little bit better here because you do have a heated group, heated portafilter.
Yes.
You can do triple shots in there if you want with a bottomless.
Right. There's a world of accessories that you can use to upgrade this.
And then if you just want to be super precise, not have to be cooling down boilers, or maybe flushing a heat exchanger out. It's been sitting around for a long time unused. Heat exchange boilers, most all of them, you have to flush if they just sit there. This a dual boiler, you don't usually. And
super
this
precise, high capacity too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Richard, you didn't mention the pre-infusion technique on the E24, so that is worth mentioning. So the pre-infusion for the E24 is just a little hack that we picked up actually from another YouTuber named Lifestyle Lab, I believe is where I first saw it. So we'll shout out to him. But essentially, what happens is if you just run the pump, but you don't have the steam switch, and you also have the valve open, what happens is your water actually can flow through both the group and through the steam wand, and you can reduce flow at the group by increasing flow through the steam wand. And so that's a way that you can actually introduce pre-infusion to the classic. And if you really want to go all in and not, you know, waste any water too, this would be perfect if you were making an Americano, let's say, because then you can go and use that water again. Or you could add it back to the reservoir. So.
That's a very, touchy-feely kind of feel it out kind of thing, doing that. An art form almost, where you can kind of more get a program pre-infusion over
of course,
here.
of course.
But I do love, not a lot of machines that I'm aware of do it that it's a low flow pre-infusion, which really makes a big difference.
So, and just for all of you, because I have been asked this question before, you could use a technique similar to that on other machines like Profitec Go or a ECM Casa or anything where you can also run water through the steam wand. Now, if you wanted to be real precise, right, because you're talking about the low flow here, you could figure out how many turns of that knob gets me, how much water at the group per second, right? So,
and
leave
use
us a
some
comment
calculus
on
to
that
get the
one.
pressure that's on the coffee or something.
I don't know if we can figure that one out, but leave us a question.
If Zach Schaus is out there, I'm sure maybe he could figure that out for us.
Zach, I know you're in the comments.
All right, well, listen, guys, we're about ready to wrap up. We really do thank you for all the questions.
Of course.
Of course, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, do that. We got thousands of videos out there we've done over the years. Lots of how-tos, self-helps, and of course complete detailed machine reviews where we do all this really deep testing so you can really get to know a product. Nick, thanks for all the frothing.
My pleasure, of course.
Today, again, thank you guys again, and we're here. We'll be here next Friday at 3.
Next Friday, that's right.
With another live stream. So have a great weekend. Great to see you all.